The rhythms of rest. Are we dancing this week? What are these rhythms?
When talking about rhythm, what comes to my mind is repetition. Repetition of a similar pattern of a sound or a movement. But how does that relate to rest in Christ? And I would say that this is just another aspect of the rest that God has provided in time and in space.
It's amazing that right from the creation, God saw rest as an experience that we need regularly, even before Adam and Eve had a chance to get tired. It's difficult to imagine what rest may have been before there was sin and all the degradations that it caused. But it's a good hint that there is much more to it than getting a good nap, even though I can always use that. So, first thing the lesson looks at is Sabbath and creation.
Yeah, if there was no creation, there will be no Sabbath rest. There will be no seventh day, or any day for that matter. The Sabbath rest is simply an element of the creation that God have done. Its purpose was to manifest in celebrating all that was created in the previous 6 days and also celebrating the relationship with the Creator. In fact, this was God's original idea with the Sabbath day. And here is where we find the aspect of repetition or rhythm on every seventh day. The rhythm of creation repeating itself in the Sabbath rest. The rhythm of pausing and connecting with nature with no regard of work, pleasure, and daily duties and activities. The rhythm of reconnecting with our Creator also, regardless of the presence of sin and in spite of our imperfect characters.
God established a day about rest when He created us. Then sin happened and so on. We moved through some history and get to the point where God finally got a nation that He liberated from slavery. They were to walk with Him and be a testimony about Him. One of the first things that God tries to convey and teach them is about this concept of rest every week.
It seems like we humans are not pre-programmed like machine to rest every seventh day. If it was so, God would never say, remember the seventh day to keep it holy. Furthermore, we read that God gave the manna to Israel in the desert in a rhythmic manner. Every 6 days, they were able to collect manna. However, it was never found on the ground on the seventh day. The seventh day was for rest. It was unusual. It was different. It served a different purpose. God was teaching a group of about 3 million people, the number of people who left Egypt, to change their rhythm of life and enjoy rest. He was teaching them. The rest is there. We need to learn how to live in its rhythmic 7 day cycle. Only when we taste it, only when you taste it, you can realize how natural it becomes and feels after that.
God apparently had a point and a special intention when teaching Israel about the Sabbath and rest. Moses made sure that it remains an important teaching for the generations to come, reminding our origins, reminding our dependence on God, reminding the liberation and redemption that God provides, pointing to the recreation and restoration that only He can do. There is a lot in this about rest, much more than a physical rest, which brings us to the last part of the lesson, keeping the Sabbath.
In some point of our lives, we all meet God. From then on, we always have this imprint of extraordinary experience of liberation and redemption from all the burdens and sicknesses, from all the sin and corruption. However, this imprint of extraordinary experience keeps on living, keeps on burning within us, only because we live in a rhythm of time and space where we continue to find rest and we continue to reconnect with the Creator. Without this rhythm, we can cool off, we can fade away, we can slowly withdraw and separate from God. It's not what I personally want, but just the opposite. I want to enjoy the rest of the Sabbath.
And I'll get a bit more practical about keeping the Sabbath. I don't know how I would have survived if I didn't have this time in the week to stop and recover a bit. I am usually drained and completely exhausted Friday night. But I also struggle with it because it's difficult to stop and drop everything mentally. I find myself often going back to my stuff. And the whole point is to learn to depend on God, to celebrate this, and to build a relationship. It's a change of mindset, and it starts with some preparation for the Sabbath. Well, there are apparently much more things on this subject, so we will continue next week with the lesson Sabbath Rest.